We have Terry Moore and Ann Jeffries, and we're going to do an interview. And, okay, so
Hyker, I started at 10, but I found out that Ann started in show business at 5.
oh, see, now her bio says that she started 2 years before you, but she was born before you.
Yes.
So, the first question I wanted to ask is, you were born in Glendale, California, so the trip to Hollywood was not a very distant one.
No.
But you were brought up in a Mormon family.
Right.
And I wonder was the trip physically a short one, but maybe because of your family background, everything, was it a long trip to get to Hollywood? Although you started at, what, 12 or 11?
No, I made my first picture at 11. I got the role when I was 10, but we didn't start shooting until I was 11. And I would have started at 4, but I got the measles. So my career was put off. I didn't get another chance. And how it's happened was the neighbor of ours sent my picture into a casting magazine, and they called me. She wanted her daughter to be in movies, and she wasn't interested, so the neighbor sent mine in, and I was called for a casting call by Central Casting, and there were 500 other little girls, and they picked 6 of us, screen tested us, and I got the role. And they wanted to know if I could horseback ride standing up, and I said, of course. And it was the Washington's birthday, and I had 4 days to run out to Burbank and go to the riding stables there and learn how to ride bareback. Of course, I loved it. I mean, kids aren't afraid of anything. And I played Walter Brennan's granddaughter.
You played with, reading both of your bios, you've played with everybody.
Yes, yes.
Everybody.
If I didn't play with them, I dated them.
Or married them.
Or married them.
And am I right? You got an Academy Award nomination when you were, what, 14?
No, I was 21.
21.
Mm-hmm. And for Come Back Little Sheba.
Excellent. All right. Of course, I've got here some stuff that we got from, because we'll explain the purpose that you were brought to Tampa, which was you're going to be given an award tonight from
Yes.
the Gasparilla Film Festival, a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I'm very glad that they brought you ladies to Tampa, and we get to see you.
And I want to thank Joshua Lee Patton, who was very instrumental in getting me here, and I really appreciate what he did.
In 1949 was the biggest year for you, and that was because you did this movie, and I got some posters here, Mighty Joe Young.
Yes.
I got some posters, some
Yes.
copies of the posters, which was, I understand, the second largest grossing film in all of 1949.
Right.
And
I actually shot it in 47 and 48, but it came out in 49.
So one of your first loves was a giant gorilla?
Yes.
No comment.
Right, a giant gorilla, and also that's the year I fell in love with and married Howard Hughes, who was nearly 6'4", so also a giant man.
Was he hairy?
Was he what?
Hairy?
No.
That's good.
No. He was French and Welsh.
Very hairy.
All right, did you ever, you made pictures for Howard Hughes?
He saw the movie, my first grown-up movie, which was Return of October, opposite Glen Ford. I was 18 years old, and I had my first kiss, and I was still such a kid, just out of high school, and we didn't have TV or anything in those days, and kids didn't grow up so quickly. And Howard saw that. I played an orphan, and he felt he was an orphan because he lost his parents very young, and he said, "I'm going to marry that girl." What has she done recently? And they said she's made a movie with a gorilla, Mighty Joe Young, for RKO. So what did he do? He bought RKO. They hadn't released the movie yet, so he could meet me. And that's how he happened to meet me. But my parents, of course, would not allow me to go out with him, and my school teacher said, "We'll have him to the house and let him see how out of his league he is." So he would come to the house for dinner, and he'd help me wash the dishes and things like that. And he started inviting us to the studio and to Goldwyn Studios, because we didn't have DVDs or anything. You saw them on what is it, 38 millimeter?
35.
35 millimeter. And so we'd see movies there, and we all became friends. And I found that then when I'd get home from my dates, he would call me, and we would talk until 3 and 4 in the morning. It was just fascinating because, and he had dated Ava and Rita and Lana and all these glamorous women that I was just thrilled with. And I'd love to hear all his stories. And I found that I was rushing home from my dates to talk to him. So my boyfriend at the time, I told him, he said, "Why don't you go out with him?" I said, "Are you kidding? Never." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, no." And he said, "Why?" And I thought, why? Well, maybe so. And so I started dating him. That's how it came about. And I fell madly in love. And I will love him always.
Can you tell us the story, incidentally, just so everyone knows, Terry Moore wrote an excellent book, The Beauty and the Billionaire, which I shall finish reading when I get home.
And even if I say so myself, Hyker, it is an excellent book. And everyone who knew Howard, Cary Grant and Greg Balzer, they said that's the only book that epitomizes him, that tells the truth about him, that it's really what he was like. All the others were written by people who never laid eyes on him or who worked for him, and he kept a distance between those who worked for him.
So you had two distinct lives,
yes,
a personal life and a business life, and he never mixed them.
Never. And he always taught me never dip the pen in the office ink. So believe it or not, I think I'm one of the few people who never had an affair with anyone I ever worked with. That's a crew, star, anyone. He taught me that very early, and it's paid off. I'm friends with all my leading men.
And you developed with Howard Hughes. You would talk to him for hours on the phone.
Yes.
And you developed a fun little thing where you never said goodbye.
No, we always did the alligator love call. I made a picture here in Tarpon Springs, and that was in Silver Springs where the alligators were with Ross Allen. And I learned the alligator love call, which was, oh, oh, oh. And you can do that, and the alligators would come from all over, and they would lasso them and catch the alligators. And so he thought that was so adorable. He always wanted me to give him the alligator love call before I went to sleep.
Excellent. You came to Florida and made several films, and one of them was Beneath the 12-Mile Reef.
Yes.
And you made that a little later.
Yes.
And how many times have you come to Florida and made films?
Well, I made Beneath the 12-Mile Reef. I made The Barefoot Mailman here with Robert Cummings and Jerome Cortland. And he was the boyfriend I was going with when I met Howard. And another reason we spent some time together is he invited Kojo, as we called Jerome Cortland, and myself to go flying with him. And I said no, and Kojo kicked me under the table and said yes. And he was 6'5", and he said, "I want to play Howard, Hughes." So he started taking us flying too. And then later he taught me to fly, and I became the third woman in the world to check out in jet airplanes, thanks to him and being taught by him.
Wow, it must have been you actually flew a jet airplane. Now that I haven't read about.
Yes, I did. And in '84, I jumped with the 82nd Airborne. I love the Air Force. I love planes. Howard and I had so much in common because I love aviation. I love to fly. And he loved motion pictures as much as I did. In fact, he used to love to do my scenes with me and practice with me. If he hadn't been the great genius innovator that he was, I think he would have made one hell of an actor.
And I guess 1984 must have been a major year for you. You jumped out of an airplane in 1984, published your book in 1984, and decided to pose for Playboy in 1984.
Yes, in 1984, and I produced a movie with my late husband, Beverly Hills Brats, which starred Martin Sheen and myself. And it was a pretty good movie, and I'm real proud of it.
Now, did Hef give you a call, or was it your idea to?
I think he gave me a call. He had tried to get me on the cover since the very first Playboy, the very first one, and my father had thrown him out of the house. He'd come to the house himself. My dad threw him out of the house. And so he had wanted to all along, and my publicist came to me and he said, "Look, if they want to do a story on you and they will want to take pictures, and they will let you see the pictures, and you can have all of them, if you don't like them, and you could approve them all." And my late husband, he said, "Look, what can it hurt? If nothing else, we can cut them off from here and have great headshots." So I went there, and he had the best photographer, the best makeup people I've ever seen. In 1984, they did no retouching. It was too expensive. They didn't have the equipment they have today, so they didn't retouch. And my husband called. I was too embarrassed to go see them. He said, come and see them. You're going to love them. Well, they were the best pictures I'd ever had taken in my life, because I'd always been the girl with the animals. I made pictures with animals. I made outdoor movies. They'd never glamorized me. And I was so thrilled with them. I said, go ahead. And almost all the pictures inside are the ones we did on that shoot, on the tryout shoot. And we
you had your clothes on, too. That was a real difference.
Yeah. I had,
She looks
yeah.
good, too.
Thank you.
Awfully good.
Thank you.
And held up very well with all the others that were on the cover that were 20.
Thank you so much.
And so you started out with horses, worked your way through a giant gorilla, and wound up in the water in Florida with alligators.
Right. That was in The Barefoot Mailman, and that was scary when I look back on it, because I didn't know that the alligators' tails are so dangerous, and they had their snouts wired but not their tails, and I have to fall in the water in 1890 clothes, and my feet were all tangled up in the petticoats, and I had to swim to shore, and the tails were going like this, and Hal Wallace called up and screamed, send that girl home, what are you allowing her to do this for? She could be killed. But the Seminole Indians were so impressed, they made me a junior Seminole or whatever, and allowed me to go back into the swamps and see the corn dance, and I've just loved the Seminoles ever since.
Gee, the days have changed. You basically did your own stunts. Today they would have sent someone else in.
Oh, yes. But, at that time, I don't know now, but the Seminole Indians had never signed a peace treaty at that time with America. I'm sure, but they have by now.
I don't know. They've been making the papers a lot lately. They think they can have any kind of gambling they want. The state of Florida says, anyway, it's another.
Oh, that's
a lot of
interesting.
Politics going on.
Yeah.
I think it'll go on forever.
Probably. Well, I guess they're doing all right now, right, with all the gambling?
Yeah, the gambling, yes. I think they do very well.
But they don't take care of each other's tribes. I question it because excuse me for interrupting.
Sure, please do.
But this subject will fleet away, and I will not have my 2 cents. But nowadays, the one tribe will be starving to death, and the others with the gambling casinos going full blast, making millions. I said, well, why don't they help the ones that are starving? I'm sending them money. I haven't got any money, but I'm sending them money, and I don't understand it, but one tribe apparently does not interact with another. Isn't that a shame?
That is a shame.
Yeah, you didn't.
Well, I know that.
No, I did not know that. I think it's awful, but you're right. I know that some are very poor. I think the Navajos are very poor.
There's a lot of them that are very poor.
Yeah.
And they're not being helped by their rich
The Paiutes and the...
other tribes.
Well, I was told that the Mohawk Mohegans, who have a big casinos up in New England, loaned money to the Seminoles so they could start their casinos. And they...
You probably have a piece of it, though. No, but Annie's right. They all should help one another.
Well, they learned capitalism very well.
Yeah. And I know in my church that we really always help each other. I mean, nobody goes poor.
No, nor in mine.
No. That's the way it should be.
An individual can't feed the world, can't feed the country, can't even feed their city. But you can try it. Every little bit helps.
I know. Judy, my assistant, just gets after me. She says, if you adopt one more African child, but every time they show on television another child starving to death, I send in my money, I sit there crying. Oh, it's just awful.
Well, it's wonderful that people are doing that. Africa, of course, is coming along so well right now. It's
oh, yeah.
advancing, and I understand that practically everyone in Africa has a cell phone, even if they don't have a bank account.
Oh, but they're so poor yet. Those children, they show that on television with the scabies and the swollen stomach, and the little tiny legs. I mean, and the AIDS. I mean, their parents are all dead, and the grandparents or the 6-year-old is taking care of the babies. It's awful.
Don't say any more. I'll send money.
I know, Annie.
Yeah, it's so sad.
So sad.
from what I see by reading your biography, that you made 2 movies in 2005, so I guess neither of you have any intention of ever retiring.
No,
Somebody
no.
gives you a job.
Not as long as I can move.
That's right. You know.
I remember.
So we're up to
Yeah, remember.
2005. Do you have anything in the works that you can give us a little secret that's coming out next year or something? Or?
Yes, I'm doing a movie that I will also probably be made partly in Florida. That is called what is it? Rikers Island. Swimming in Rikers Island, and it's a wonderful story. And my son is going to do the script, Grant Kramer, and I've just read it, and it's just fantastic. And when I get back in this month in March, I'm doing the Elizabeth in Essex, Elizabeth the Queen. I'm playing Queen Elizabeth at the Stella Adler Theater, and then I'm going to do it at the Actors Studio, which is just a big job. And I am loving playing Queen Elizabeth. Oh, just loving it.
Excellent. Okay, now I would like maybe if you could do me a favor.
Yes.
Could you introduce Anne for me and tell us a little bit about her?
Well, let me tell you something. Anne has done so much, as they say. She started at 5 years old. My late husband, all he said was, Terry, of course he thought I was beautiful because he was married to me, but he said, one woman that is, I have to say, and I know you won't be hurt, is more beautiful than you. The most beautiful woman in the entire world is Anne Jeffries. And every time he'd see her, he'd say, you are the most beautiful girl in the whole world. And I sit and I'm stunned always by her beauty. And it's in her. It's in her.
Now
and
you have to look at
and
this face
her
after she
career,
said all that.
no. And you know she hasn't had a lot of surgery. She pulls her hair straight back, and she's got a natural, beautiful face. And she's beautiful from the inside out. And her career spans so many years. I saw her opening night on Broadway when she did Kiss Me Kate. She not only sang Kiss Me Kate on Broadway, but did the road show. And she can sing La Boheme and Tosca. And her beautiful husband, who she did Topper with. And then she played the mother to David Hasselhoff on Baywatch. You tell all your, because you know what you've done better than I have. But
You're embarrassing me.
well, I would be embarrassed too if I were that beautiful.
Well, it's interesting that both of you have a
And
list
she
of
flew here
credits that
herself
go- there are
to
multiple
introduce me
pages.
tonight, which I will always be so
Have
grateful
you ever seen
for.
the Tampa Theater yet?
Pardon?
Have you ever been to the Tampa Theater?
No.
It's one of those few grand old beautiful theaters. It was built in 1926, and it's all completely restored with all the gargoyles and the tiles, and it's just an experience to see it. And it's good that some cities have saved their old theaters. Too many of them
Oh,
have gone by
yes.
the wayside.
I
So
know.
it's a beautiful environment, just as beautiful as
Isn't
like
it
this.
something that's so
Yes.
This was built
remarkable?
100 years ago too. And
Oh,
all
it's
restored.
beautiful.
Tampa was very good about
Preserving
keep
things.
preserving a lot of things, where cities like St. Petersburg have torn
Well, we
down.
just loved Tampa, what we saw last night, walking along the old streets and everything. It was just lovely. Annie, you've got to turn on to Annie now because she's had such a career.
Oh, no.
Well, she started out, it seems, on doing several movies, and then switched over and did an awful lot of television, which is, haven't you?
Yes, I did a lot of Broadway too. That's
A
what
lot of
I
Broadway
loved.
and have record albums.
But I had done almost 30 movies before I went to New York to do opera and then to do Broadway. So I'm sort of an alligator switching my tail there from one to the other.
Well, you've done everything.
Well,
that
no,
there
I
is.
didn't do vaudeville and I didn't do burlesque.
You didn't jump out of an airplane.
No. But I did a lot of things.
Did you date Howard Hughes?
But we won't go into that.
She probably did. I'm sure you did. If she didn't, she's the only one who didn't.
Until
I ran faster than he did.
I read through your book and
Oh,
watched
dear.
this
He was a bad
wonderful
boy.
video that you made, The Passions of Howard Hughes. I never realized that Howard Hughes dated everybody.
And then some.
And then some.
I didn't think he would have time with all of his work he was
He
doing.
was quite a
too.
beau vivant. I remember when he crashed into the rooftop there on Whittier, and everybody, of course, was so upset about it, because he was a wonderful personality in our world. And they were talking about all the girls that dashed to the hospital. You name them. Lana, Ava, all down the line. They would line up to get to, you probably...
I didn't know him yet.
Oh.
No, I didn't meet him
weren't there.
No, I didn't meet him till 3 years later.
But all the glamour girls in Hollywood, except moi, rushed to the hospital to see him and make sure that he was still there.
Oh, Gene Peters was there too.
Oh, they were all there, darling.
Yeah.
You started at, what, 4 years old?
No, I sang the first time when I was 5. And my mother had me coaching, vocal coaching, because she found out when I was like 6 months old, she was playing the Victrola record we had in those days that you wound up way back then. And when she cut it off, went out of the room to do something, when she came back, this little 6 months old was standing up. I was very precocious, standing up in the crib, hanging on to the side, going da 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 da, whatever the song was that she had been playing. And I think it was something that Caruso was singing.
Oh, my favorite.
So she said the fact that a young child whose vocal cords are not really coordinated at that particular age, she said, nice singer, because she wanted to be a singer.
So you learned to sing before you learned to talk.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Oh, yes. So that started me, you know. She coached me, had me coached, and I started singing in public when I was 5. And I sang at everything, the Junior Chamber of Commerce, the whatever meeting, whatever there was in town that they needed somebody to entertain. Mother had me singing. And it was a great experience for me. You know, it got me started, and I was never afraid. The kids aren't afraid anyway. They don't know fear yet. So I'm always at home on the stage, and I love it. And that's...
And then you switched out to movies. When would you do your first movie?
Well, actually, my first movie was with Jeanette MacDonald, Nelson Eddy.
Oh.
I Married an Angel. And I had been in love with Nelson since I was knee-high to a goose, too, because my grandmother had taken me to see all their movies when they came to my hometown of Goldsboro, North Carolina. And so I had, you know, Nelson Eddy. And when I was on the set, I couldn't talk. I was 17, and this man was so charismatic. He was not like he was on the stage, I mean, in films. You know, he's very stoic, stout-hearted man. But in person, he was gay, he was funny. I take that back. He was funny, he was light, he was very personable, very opposite from what he was in films.
I loved him from the screen.
So I was telling somebody just today, I said, well, the last day of the film, or the last month of the film, he came over to me. I was sitting at the dressing table with my hair rolled up in curlers, and he came dancing over. He was doing the Mikado, something from the Mikado that he was just having fun with. And he came tap dancing over to me, and he said, photographer, cameraman, here, still man. And he came over and he said, I'd like to take a picture here with a quiet one. And in those days, I was quiet. I had such a heavy Southern accent that I just kept my mouth shut, you know, and I was shy anyway. So with the quiet one, I said, it was the last time anyone ever said I was quiet. But he took the picture, and at the end of the film, he presented it to me in a silver frame, an 8x10 photograph of the two of us. And it said on there, to the most beautiful girl in the world, from her adoring slave, Nelson Eddy.
Oh.
Do you know, I still have that picture.
Oh, I would too.
It's faded a little bit. He sits on my piano today. So that was my first film.
What a nice experience.
Yes, it was. It was wonderful.
Oh, it makes you want to do it over and over.
Yes.
I was in love with Nelson Eddy too.
I think we all were.
Yes.
He was wonderful.
I'm sure that both of you must have played roles where you acted with the same male lead.
Oh, I was in love with Tyrone Power, and then I played opposite him, and I'm not over it yet.
Oh, that must have been terrible to do, you know. Did you
Oh.
have to kiss him?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I
And it's,
usually didn't get to kiss the leading man, and I usually lost him in the end to the other girl.
I think I always got the leading man, and I always got to kiss him. And of course, Glenn Ford had been one of my favorites, and Tyrone Power. I mean, I never, because, you know, when you're 12 to 15, years old and you see these men and they're grown up on stage, you're a child. You never think you'll ever grow up and play opposite them, do you?
No.
And it seemed like every man I fell in love with, I'd end up playing opposite him. And all I had, and well, every year for the last 50 years, this year was 50 years since Tyrone died, I've been at his memorial and spoken. And I even went on stage at the Egyptian, was there because, well, you knew Cesar Romero, who was his closest friend.
Well, Cesar was so in love with Tyrone.
Well, anyone who ever knew him was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the kindest man I've ever known. My mother and daddy used to say, you're as beautiful, Tyrone, in the inside as you are the outside. I've never known a more spiritual, kind man in my life. He was beautiful. We adored him. Did you know him, Annie?
Yes.
Did you?
Not
Didn't
as well as you did. but
Yeah.
I knew.
He was.
She married all the ones that she fell in love with.
Yeah.
That's a difference.
And you got to dance with
Fred Astaire. I danced with
I
Fred
did
Astaire.
too.
Oh,
I knew
good.
one that you
Oh,
both-
which one? I did Daddy Longlegs. Which one did you?
Oh, I didn't do a film. I did was it a Battlestar Galactica or one of those space things? And we had to do a dance on a space nightclub. And it was very difficult for him because, as you know, he liked to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. He was a perfectionist.
He would rehearse 8 hours a day.
And this was just, he kept saying, "But don't show my feet," because we were in a crowded nightclub in outer space somewhere, and I was Princess Cyrus or some such thing. And the dance consisted of doing things like, and he kept saying, which, I said, just wherever I put my hand up, hit it, you know? So he was not too happy with that, nor was I, because it didn't show our feet, and he just would not, he said, people expect me to really go into a big dance, of which he was very right, you know, you expect Mr., what's the Samuel's name?
Fred Astaire, Mr. Astaire.
He's such a perfectionist, but he was wonderful, and he
Sweet
knew
man.
his lines. Now he was 90-something. He knew his lines. He knew exactly what he was going to do in the scenes. There again, he's a perfectionist.
He was. He was a sweet
so
man
I
too.
can say laughingly that I danced with Tyrone. I'm going back to Tyrone again. Hello, Tyrone. Are you
Hello.
here? It was something I put on my itinerary of things that I have done. Dance with Fred Astaire. I know.
Excellent. And you made a movie with Jimmy Durante.
Yes.
He was.
The only picture he ever starred in, and I co-starred with Jimmy Durante. And it was called The Great Rupert, and they colorized it and everything, and now call it A Christmas Story. But he was wonderful to work with.
In that movie,
He's a sweet man.
Oh, wasn't he a
See,
sweetheart?
when I grew up, I knew him as the old guy playing the piano with the big nose, and he was a comedian.
Yeah.
But he
In
made
between
lots
every
of,
scene, he was playing the piano, and he had a big nose.
and he had a big nose. I thought I had the poster here, but he looks so young and so different in the poster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was he fun to work with?
Oh, he was, but you know, he was fun to work with. But he had his cronies around him, so between every scene, he was at the piano pounding it away, singing. So that was the best part between the takes. When you work with a comedian, that's the best part. I was very close to Bob Hope. Were you?
I knew him well.
I loved him.
Yeah.
He was just wonderful. I loved Hope, and I traveled with him. I'm sure Annie did too.
No, as a matter of fact, I was asked to go over those Christmas things that you probably went on. And at that time, my mother would not allow me to go out of the country. There was a war on, you know. And she said no. So I spent my time doing hospitals and USO shows all around the country, but I was not allowed to go overseas.
Well, I was told by a local stuntman, Jerry Allen, that he saw you with Bob Hope in Korea. Was he remembering
Oh
correctly?
yeah, I'll tell you, I was so crazy about him, and he was wonderful to the end. I mean, I just dreaded the year that I wouldn't get his Christmas card, and it finally came. But one of the last Christmas cards, you know, he's quite old by that time. He had a very young picture of him and Dolores on the front of his Christmas card, and he said, "This is our most recent picture." which I thought was so funny because he was very old by that time. And he had this very young picture on his Christmas card. I mean, he was just funny all the time.
Do you have any other story that you want to tell that I haven't been smart enough to ask the right question about?
Annie, what about you?
Oh, I have a whole book yet, but
Yes.
we won't go into that.
I mean, you could keep us here
Are
all
you
day.
still singing?
Yes, I do concerts here, there, and yon.
Can we get one line?
Get a concert?
No, not a concert, just
A
sample.
a verse.
a verse.
Hello, young lovers, whoever you are. I hope your troubles are few. That's enough.
That's it. You haven't lost it in all these years. That's good.
Well,
That's
it's
excellent.
not as strong as it used to be, to come from an opera singer to a Broadway stage show. I did Kurt Weill's Street Scene, the first one, the original. And then go from that to what? There was a show written for me. This was the time she was marrying Howard. I was working my tail off on Broadway and loving it. I did, I think it was 5 straight shows, with a year, 2 years each. And that was really a very important part of it. I met my husband on Broadway, married him, so that was a good thing too. And I still do shows now and then.
Now, for the younger people who are very familiar with Baywatch, you didn't sing on Baywatch, did you?
No, I played his mother, and it was very nice. I think I did 5 episodes, and I found him to be a lovely young gentleman, wonderful manners, easy to work with, as nice as he could be. In this recent thing that he got into, I don't understand that at all, because that's not the young man that I worked with and knew and respected and loved. But it was fun. I enjoyed doing Baywatch. I wish it was still going. I get residuals from Slovenia and all sorts of places over in Europe because he's very big of it, particularly in Germany. But it was an experience, another one that I loved. And you haven't mentioned Topper. Maybe some of the younger people have not seen
yes.
Topper.
I've seen that several times. It seems you can watch that movie over and over, and it never gets old.
Well, it isn't dated, I was a big fan of the movies Topper. There were
Me
2 of
too,
them.
both of them.
Yeah, there were 2 of them. There's Cary Grant and Connie
Constance Bennett.
Constance Bennett and Roland Young were the original ones. So Robert and I were playing at the Sands in Las Vegas. We had a nightclub act. And my husband, Robert Sterling, by the way. And they called and asked us would we be interested in doing a television version of Topper. And I said, oh, yes, yes. And Robert said yes, because I guess he had seen the films years ago and loved them too. So that started we finished our nightclub act and came to Los Angeles and were playing the Coconut Grove. And while we were playing the Coconut Grove, we shot the pilot during the day. And then we went to the Fairmont in San Francisco, and while we were at the Fairmont, they called and said, cancel the rest of your tour. The pilot has been sold, the fastest selling. It says it's not even out of the can practically. It's still wet. And so we canceled our rest of our tour and came back and started the Topper series.
It was marvelous.
And one of our writers was Sondheim.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, we kept him locked in the closet, typing away. So the rather sophisticated things you get in there, I guess, came from Sondheim.
The good thing about having 300 channels on your TV is that all of this stuff can be continuously played, so everybody can see it. The young people today, I'm finding people in their 20s and 30s are just in love with the stuff from that was made 40 and 50 years ago and before. Yeah. They just talk about the quality. It's not the same today.
No.
They make wonderful movies today, but it's not the same.
No.
The glamour seems to have gone.
And even the humor has changed too, What humor we had that was a little bit questionable was double entendre, so it didn't really say what they say today. Sometimes I go, oh my gosh, they say that on television? Or they do that on television. I also spent quite a few years doing General Hospital. And boy, I tune in on that today and I don't know anybody. And the things they do on the screen, I think, wouldn't have done that in my day. I wouldn't have done it anyway. So I'm a prude. So.
Oh, we're all prudes. All of us born in the 20s are
So
prudes. One thing don't want to forget, I want to thank the Don Vicente Inn for their contribution and Josh Patton for, for their contributions that were here, and the Film Festival, again, for bringing us here.
Well, I'm delighted to be here.
Yes. What you were saying about who did you play opposite in how nice he was that you were just talking about. Hasselhoff. He offered to do a cameo in our movie, Beverly Hills Brats. I just never found anybody sweeter. I so agree with you. I mean,
Did he do it for you?
well, we didn't have any place for him to do it, or he would have, but he offered to. And I thought he was so kind and sweet.
Nice young man. I
A
don't know
lovely
how he got
person.
into all that mess.
I know.
And as far as I know, he never took a drink. So,
I know. I never saw that either.
so there, David. That's for you, sweetheart.
Yes. Mwah. We love you, David.
Well, I was just handed a book
Yes.
with
That's
says,
my.
How do you stay so young?
This is my new book that just came out.
Yeah, I've been finding out things about her that I didn't know. I have to talk to you later.
Yeah. And it's what I learned from all the stars I ever worked with. And I've worked with Mary Pickford. And so it goes all the way back to Mary Pickford right up to John Travolta, moving through Cary Grant, John Wayne, all these people. John Wayne and Cary Grant went on my honeymoon with me, and John Wayne was the best man at my wedding, one of my weddings.
Which wedding?
What the one to Jean McGrath, which is
Oh, yeah.
you maybe haven't gotten that far.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know him?
No.
No, okay.
No, I missed that one. Thank
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think I knew you yet.
you. No, you didn't.
But
I'm a
it's
big tease, so you have to.
oh yeah, and I love to be teased.
So this book has just come out,
Yes, it
and
has.
it's in
It's
print,
very-
and everybody
Yes.
should run to the store and buy a
Yes.
copy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's very interesting. I just got a copy of it, and I've started reading it upstairs in the hotel here.
I put a copy on her doorstep this morning, so she's reading
Very
it.
interesting. Very.
But
good.
it really is, because you get to know people quite intimately. In the book, there's Ingrid Bergman. I have stories also on Audrey Hepburn, Princess Grace, and Jackie Kennedy. And we were all born in 29, the same year. And of course, they're gone, and I'm still here, but I learned a lot from them because they all had great style, as Annie does.
Thank
There's
you,
another person that was born in 29
Yes?
that I was watching last Sunday on television, and Barbara Walters.
Oh, is she born 29?
She was born in December of 1929.
dear. I've read her book,
Wow. Wow, I'm born in
And
January.
She's still working every week and doing
Yes.
a wonderful job.
Yes. Well, my agent called me to do a big television show, but I was coming here. And every time I get on a plane to go anyplace, my agent calls me
Happens
for a
to me, too.
show. The last time was a show called Greek. They're supposed to be very good. It always happens.
I think they wait for you to leave town.
Yeah, I think they know. They somehow know you're leaving town. What one of those with the three initials, CR or C?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
CSI.
CSI. Yeah.
There's CSI, I think Miami and CSI New York, and when they get a hit, they sort of like put it all over the place.
Right, exactly.
So you're going to be doing that in Florida?
Well, no, they called me when I get a call when I'm on the plane to come back and do one, and I couldn't. I said, I'm on the plane, and the stewardess said, will you turn your phones off? It always happens when I get on a plane to go anyplace. I get a call for it, because I love to do guest appearances. I hope soon I'm going to do a guest appearance on 2.5 Men. I just am in love with that show. Do you ever watch it, Annie? It's one of the
No.
funniest shows. Oh, gosh.
I watched very little situation comedy.
Well,
You can
I
call it that.
have never watched one, and somehow I watched it this summer. I didn't know it had been on for 6 years, and it's they do reruns from 7 to 8 in California, and I can't miss it. And everyone knows they don't call me between 7 and 8, and then the new one is on Monday at 9 o'clock on a different channel. But it is so funny, and it's the best writing I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. You'll love it.
We'll have to watch it when she's on anyway.
And the woman who plays the mother, I should remember her name because she is wonderful. Just a wonderful actress. I'm sure you know her name. She's probably very famous.
Oh, I don't know anybody's name, so don't count on that for me.
No.
I don't remember yesterday. I remember yours. You're Terry Moore.
And you're Ed Jeffries.
You're a little bitty thing.
You both worked in Hollywood all those years and didn't actually meet there.
She was in New York so much of the time.
Yeah.
On the stage,
and
yes.
then we were under contract. I was under contract for 21 years. I was under contract to Eagle Lion 7 years, Columbia for 7 years, and then 20th Century Fox for 7 years. So if you're under contract to Warner Brothers, you don't meet the people at Fox.
No.
You were probably which studio were you
I
with?
started out at Metro, and I wound up at Republic, and then I wound up at RKO.
Yeah, and even though Howard had RKO, I was just borrowed there once for a movie there. So you see, different studios. It's like different states.
Well, studios in those days were like a family.
Mm-hmm.
They taught you acting, they took care of your fan mail, they even would put in the paper you were out with so-and-so, and you never even met them. This was all part of the way that they did things. Now, there are no studios, and the young people are scattered all over the place, and they only know each other from bars and nightclubs and what the paparazzi puts out about them. It's a shame. Now, we had a
We were
community.
friends.
We had a community.
We had communities.
Yeah.
And we had fan magazines that were flattering instead of all these magazines like the Enquirer and everything that say bad things about you. They only said good things about you. They built you up. And for instance, all the kids in Hollywood, we'd get together. I mean, every weekend there was Roddy McDowell, Jane Powell, Elizabeth Taylor, myself. We'd all get together and we're friends.
We would parties and play games.
Yeah, swim together, everything like that. Yeah, we were all buddies and friends.
Oh dear, the good old days.
We played together.
And we stayed together.
Yes.
We did.
And you're still traveling together
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and sharing the trip to Florida.
Yes. Annie, it's interesting that I wasn't friends with Annie back then, and I've become very good friends with Jane Russell. And Jane and Annie and I are all good friends now. And Jane and I, she was Howard Hughes' star. I was his wife. We both married Heisman Trophy winners. We were both who both played for the Rams. So we have a lot in common. She was just with me last weekend, and we usually all go. Annie didn't go this time, but the last 4 years we've gone to the Academy Awards together. Mm-hmm. We all go together.
Yeah, we have a good time.
We have a good time.
I didn't marry a millionaire. I didn't marry a football player. You do all those wonderful things you do. I just married one man for 54 and a half years.
See, it was better. An actor, though. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I never dated an actor.
Well, I told him when my mother said, "Now this is the man you should marry," and I said, "An actor? No way!" But
He was special.
Yeah,
he was special.
He was special.
And handsome too.
He was a good
Well,
father.
54 years
good
is-
man.
you've done a wonderful
54
job.
and a half.
54 and a half.
Yeah.
I was married almost that long if you put them all together.
Yeah. You're right.
Excellent.
Well, you believe in variety. I do.
Well, I would like to thank you all
Thank
for
you.
doing this interview. I'm sure that the people will enjoy it very much, and thank you for coming to Florida. And I hope, looking forward to seeing you introduce Terry tonight.
And I want to
you
thank
receive
Annie
the
again.
reward.
I love her so much for doing that. Oh, God love you. Thank
I
you.
miss it for you, honey. She's a good lady.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Barbara was born in 29. I didn't know
December
that.
1929.
Yeah.
You didn't read her book then?
No, I want to read it, though. That was sort of shocking, that affair, wasn't it? With the senator.
Oh, well. No, nothing shocks me
No,
anymore.
I know, not anymore. She's just had more facelifts, Barbara. Oh, God, she's had a lot.
I heard that they're talking about getting rid of her.
Really? I heard that for quite a while. Oh, you mean on the show that she's on now, View? On View?
Yeah.
Hmm.
She's doing fine. Let her
She
alone.
leave her alone. I mean, let's keep the old ones around.